So I mean, Kanishta Adhikari is more of a like I don't know what we have ISKCON in ISKCON. So to come to the level of high Kanishta, then Madhyam Adhikari, meaning spontaneous direction from Krishna and helping others. That's the question, huh?
Well, yeah, but what about our project? The project.
Yeah. What about it's leaked for 10,000 years? Yeah, the 9,500 year balance.
What's your vision of what we're actually doing here?
That's a good question. First of all, we have understood the problem with the institution that Srila Prabhupada set up with Kanishta Adhikaris, meaning that the initiators, where I have been part of it for the past, I don't know, 10 years now. And I'm pretty much frustrated because, I want to go to a higher level, but within that program, the initiator program here in Sacramento or everywhere else, it's very limiting, right? Limiting in a go ahead, Rupa Manjari Prabhu.
Ramachandra Prabhu, did you have a guru that you were following or that you took initiation from?
No, never. No. I came in contact with Srila Prabhupada in probably 2007, 2008. I bought his book on eBay, and then I was listening to all kinds of, Mayavadis, people preaching about Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, and stuff. So, and at the same time, I was listening to Srila Prabhupada also.
When you say Mayavad, you mean in ISKCON or not in ISKCON?
Not in ISKCON, outside people.
Okay,
so, yeah, there are people who are, preaching from Bhagavad Gita, they're Mayavadis. But I was following them, and at the same time, I was listening to Srila Prabhupada's classes and conversations. So that's how I came in contact. And later on, I found out that these people are totally bogus, and Prabhupada is the only person to take shelter of some 3-4 years later, after following these other people.
How did you conclude that?
Well, I kind of saw the whole thing coming. Prabhupada was very firm in his vows, and he was very condemning. I didn't like that in the beginning, but later on I figured out, oh yes, he's telling the truth, and I do not like it because I have some personal, inclinations toward these bad habits. I mean, no one else says that, you must give up, all these bad habits. They say you can do whatever you like and just be part of our group, kind of thing. Yeah, so I didn't follow any of these gurus.
Having seen the whole scope of ISKCON, yet you didn't join any guru in ISKCON.
Yeah, I was admiring some gurus like Bhakti Vikas Swami. He's someone I admired. Dhanavir Swami was a good one also. But then I was never really, like, how can you say? I didn't have that feeling like I had for Srila Prabhupada, because I've been listening to his lectures for the past 6-7 years. They were not so powerful like Srila Prabhupada's lectures, conversations, insights.
And what did you attribute to the fact that you didn't feel that they were as powerful as Prabhupada? Because they claim to be successors to Prabhupada.
Yeah, they claim. I mean, anyone can claim anything, but it's just that I don't know. It's something. It's hard to explain.
It's more than them claiming; they're being claimed. I mean, people are saying this is what they are.
Yeah, that's what they are. So
how did you get past that?
Well, I met these gurus like Bir Krishna and what's his name, Giriraj, this Vaisheshika. I talked to them, but their realization and their approach to Krishna consciousness and Srila Prabhupada's, it's very different. I mean, they're preaching from the same books, but Prabhupada's message he can deliver in 5 minutes. They probably will take them several years to give the same message. The potency, the Shakti.
That sounds like me.
What do you mean?
Oh, then I tend to try to explain simple things with a lot of talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rupa Mantri knows exactly what I'm referring to.
Oh man, do I?
So that's the thing. For the next 10,000 years, that's a big thing. That's a big endeavor. But it seems very simple that what to do now. That's what
is
we're
it
trying.
A big endeavor? I mean, how can it be a big endeavor? I mean, I think we started out on that train by concluding or questioning, well, if I'm not here for 10,000 years, what am I going to be doing for the next 10,000 years?
Right.
What am I going to do?
Right.
I mean, am I going to magically go back to Godhead in an instant or what?
Narayan, he's asking, what's a boots on the ground plan for executing the deliverance of the fallen souls for the next 10,000 years? What's the plan, the ABC?
Yes.
Well, can I ask you to explain it?
Who are you talking to?
Rupa Manjari, of course.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see.
Prabhupada is the spiritual master, original books. What else?
So what's the task? I mean, Prabhupada didn't come here. Prabhupada said that if we read all of his books, in the very end, what we will conclude is to chant Hare Krishna.
Right.
Because the kinetic part, his books are pure, the mantra is pure, but in the end, there's no difference between the mantra and Krishna himself. Right?
Yes.
So it's almost as though everything we're doing leads us to do what we start at the beginning, which is to chant Hare Krishna. That's not the hard part, but what do we do to create a world society? A world society
that's a question.
Can deliver every single soul. Oh yeah, we were asking our question is, the Banu had a sort of idea.
Banu just came. Banu just came online. Yeah.
So the question came up, why not just chant Hare Krishna and then go back to Godhead at the end of his lifetime?
Yes.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do? And we asked Chidananda, and Chidananda asked, what did your Guru Bhagavan, who was his mentor?
No, Prabhu, I think you should turn off the video because you're doing stuff in the background. I think it will be better that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Okay. So Bhagavan, he said, I'm sorry. He said, I asked Bhagavan, what about, how will I go back to Godhead? And Bhagavan sort of gestured skyward with his hand, said, I will take you back to Godhead. But then in a reasonably short time after that, Bhagavan couldn't take himself back to Godhead. He left the movement with somebody else's wife, Hadley, with 8 kids, who had 8 kids.
Wow.
So the question is, that question remained. So, and that's where it came in. Banu was very powerful and very instrumental in helping us form this league for 10,000 years, because he was able to, in our conversations with Banu, it became clear that the chances of going back to Godhead in that short a period of time, like one end of this one lifetime, which is fine. If a person can do it, let them do it, is unlikely, because first they have to become a madhyam, and then they have to become an uttama adhikari.
Yes. Yeah.
So go ahead, take it from here. I don't want to do all the talking.
Yeah. So I mean, so so that is the question. So we've kind of putting the puzzle together.
Yeah. So what does it take to become an uttama adhikari, based upon what we've been worked on so far, in your opinion?
What does it take to become an uttama adhikari? Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, right now we are clearly, as it were, like you could almost say, enlightened Kanistha-adhikaris, meaning that we're Kanistha-adhikaris who know that Kanistha-adhikari is not the final stage. So what other stages are there? Would you say?
Anyone?
Chanting lots of Hare Krishna and reading all the books and basically being a full-time staunch devotee.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're Kanistha-adhikari, is there anything beyond Kanistha-adhikari? Or is Kanistha-adhikari the final stage?
Well, of course, there's Madhyam and then Uttama.
Can you just give a clarification of what it would be like to be a Madhyam, and then what it would be like to be an Uttama?
The distinction.
Well, I know that Kanistha Adhikari is said this one that goes to the temple. And then Madhyam Adhikari is one who is Krishna conscious. And then Uttama Adhikari is he's purely Krishna conscious.
Okay. Now the Madhyam Adhikari, first of all, I like to distinguish the Kanistha Adhikari as someone who requires the four regulative principles to follow. Why? Because the four regulative principles, I mean, if you're really advanced devotee, you don't need to follow the four regulative principles, or rather, you don't need to have them there like a stick over your head. You follow them because you follow them.
Too. Yeah, it's nothing to think
nature.
about. Yeah,
so
it's nature,
the
right?
The Kanistha Adhikari has the four regulative principles, and the Madhyam Adhikari no longer requires the four regulative principles because he has given up his sense of belonging to human society altogether.
Right.
And that means he is busy trying to shed his earthly bodily identification for real. The Kanistha Adhikari is doing that. He's shedding but what he's really doing is he's improving his bodily consciousness by purifying his body. He takes rashad instead of hot dogs. He drinks gulab juice instead of whiskey. You know what I mean? He trades his proclivities of breaking the regulative principles.
That's the Kanishta you're talking about, right?
Kanishta, yeah. He trades those things for authorized activities provided by Prabhupada by which if he takes all of these things, he automatically becomes purified. I just read something recently where Prabhupada said exactly that. That he didn't say Kanistadagari, but he said when a person joins an ISKCON temple, they automatically give up all their bad habits.
So so automatically gives it. That's like what? That seems like a Madhyamadakari, automatically kind of.
No. The automatically gives up the bad habits means if you go and live in a Krishna temple, say, or take initiation from Prabhupada and live in a ISKCON temple, supposing you could actually do that. If you did that, would you be offered hamburgers to eat in the temple?
No.
No. You'd be given prasadam, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're given prasadam in the temple, then that means automatically you're following one of the four regulated principles. I mean, for a devotee like a brahmachari living in the temple, it would be very difficult for him to break meat eating unless he went out in the middle of the night and to McDonald's or Burger King or something and snuck a burger and then snuck back into the ashram,
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when I say automatically, or when Prabhupada said automatically, he's saying that if you are in the temple, there's no options for eating meat. So you take prasadam. Why do you take prasadam? Well, you're in a material body, and your material body is hungry, and your material body is used to eating hamburgers and hot dogs, but your body is used to it, but because you've sacrificed that, you've renounced it. Now you're living in the temple. There is no hamburgers and hot dogs. There's prasadam. So you take prasadam.
So,
and you're used to listening to music, streaming, whatever, rock and roll, but instead you're listening to kirtan, Prabhupada preferably. You're listening to kirtan. Well, that's fantastic. So automatically you're not hearing nonsense sound vibrations. The chances of gambling are very remote. You have to really make a point of it to gamble. And I sneak out in the middle of the night again and go to a casino, Morongo. You know about Morongo?
No idea.
It's one of those Native American owned, supposedly mafia, but Native American owned gambling casinos. And at that casino, I like to say they don't write it out properly. It's Morongo. Well, what if you just split it in two? Moron go.
Moron go. All right.
Moron go.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So
Moron go.
Moron go. So that you have to sneak up in the middle of the night and moron go to the casino, lose your Sankirtan collection that you made selling Prabhupada's books. Well, they were changed books, so it doesn't matter. Well, that's not the point. You're getting anyhow. And if you want to have sex life, get married. That's available.
Right.
So
that's Kanishta.
What I'm saying is that the Kanishta Adhikari is automatically protected by the four regulated principles, breaking the four regulated principles by simply not going outside of the community to get his food or pleasures or whatever, Does it make sense?
Yeah. So you said that community.
But we've discussed this more than once. Madhyamadikari means you're ready to let go of even a refined. Supposing you become a Kanistadikari to the point that you're a pujari, and you're thinking of Krishna day and night, and you dream about how you're going to dress the deity, and the deity comes to you in a dream of how he wants to be dressed. I mean, this can all be done on the Kanistadikari platform while you're married, while you're running a business and doing all those other things too.
Right.
At some point, you say, no, enough already. I want to completely surrender, and I want
Well,
to.
that's the real
That
deal.
becomes, yeah. And which adhikari is that when he says he wants to surrender?
I mean, if you look at it from the pastimes of the Chaitanya Chaitamrita, there's Raghunath Das Goswami was being maintained, and he was begging, and that at one time he just gave up begging. He said, "Whatever the Lord sends, I will take. If He doesn't send, then I will not take anything."
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's very good, because if you stop to think of it, the only person guiding us to get what we want, whatever it is, good, bad,
With
or
Krishna
indifferent,
himself.
sinful or not, is Paramatma in the heart, right?
Right, right.
Krishna's not standing with his flute, wagging it at something that you want. No, he's busy playing the flute in Goloka. Who is guiding you is the person that you basically enslave, called Paramatma. I want this, I want that, give me this, give me that. Paramatma will supply it. Why? Because you asked for it. Why does he give you what you asked for? Because you're part and parcel of Krishna. Why does that matter? Krishna will not be denied. Now, I don't want to get too carried away, but what about the Madhyamadikari?
Yeah. So what about it?
Well,
Yes,
in that Madhyam stage, the Madhyamadikari renounces all the good things that he learned as a Kanistadikari.
Renounces?
renounces-
What do you mean renounces? How can he renounce anything? Like
Because
Krishna conscious.
the Kanista Adhikari is married. He has children. He has a car. He has a business. He lets these things go. Not the things. He can do the things, but he lets go the identification with the body. Doesn't matter which body. He's letting go of the one he's in at that moment, right? So he lets go of that body. And when he starts letting go of that body and worshiping Krishna as Krishna, not worshiping Krishna as a deity in the temple that belongs to his community next door, nearby where his apartment is and where his car is parked and all of that, all that complicated stuff. When he just worships Krishna as he is, Paramatma begins to then guide him how to please Krishna in that direct way. I like to use the example of fanning Krishna because it's kinetic. So it's fanning Krishna, and it's unpleasant for Krishna. He doesn't like it very much, but he does like the fact that you're trying to do it. But gradually, Paramatma says, like this, like that, you'll like it better. So he said, okay, I'll do it. You surrender, in other words. I'll do it this way. I'll follow you, Paramatma. I'll do it the way you say. And Krishna begins to say, that's quite an improvement. I'm beginning to like that. Well, it comes to the point where not only you're fanning Krishna, but you're developing the swaroop to fan Krishna. Right now, we have no swaroop. We have no form. We're infinitesimal spots, infinitesimal dots.
So
our
this
form is
Madhyam,
our material body. Our spiritual body has no form at this point.
so this Madhyam Adhikari stage, I mean Kanishta Adhikari that you can learn from Srila
He's still
Prabhupada's
in his
books.
body. He still identifies with his body.
So now,
getting more and more pure. The body's getting more and more pure. Go ahead.
But doesn't association have to do a lot with it to come to the Madhyam Adhikari
associating
platform?
with other people that are purifying their bodies.
No, I'm talking about coming to the Madhyam Adhikari platform.
There's nothing. What's the association? The association is a bunch of people who are showing up to have a feast, go birthday parties for their kids and stuff like that, identifying with their body and the bodies of their wife and children and relatives.
No, I'm talking about the Madhyam Adhikari platform.
Madhyam Adhikari platform is letting go of that attachment to friends, family, bodily identification, gender. You have to give up everything. I promised Rupa Manjari I wouldn't talk so much.
No, but you were saying give up everything, but you said just a while ago, he can still do all that thing. So let's make a distinction here. Give up what? Give up the identity of ownership.
Give up any identification. If he still has a business, he is no longer associating the business with himself. He is just doing the business to do because that's what he's doing, you know. But he doesn't have to believe in it as himself. Oh, I am a businessman. I'm not a businessman. I am trying to give up my bodily identification so that I can become a Madhyamadikari.
Okay, so I'd like to stop here for a moment and ask anyone for questions, clarifications, doubts, so people can.
I wish you would answer the questions, and I wish Rupa Manjari and Banu would. The whole point is I didn't want to do this.
It's okay, but let's.
Rupa Manjari still there?
Yeah, she's still here.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Banu Prabhu,
so if you answer, you know all this stuff better than I do. So
the thing is that Ramachandra wants a clearly laid out plan without any deviations or distractions on how to make the world Krishna conscious in the next 10,000 years. What is the step-by-step plan? And Narayan, I do think you should help us here because you're the most senior.
Yeah,
well, that won't help anybody. Old and in the way is what Jerry Garcia wrote.
No, I mean, you have a lot of life experience.
Old and in the way.
So a step-by-step or we've understood the Kanishta Adhikari platform, which we have grown up in. And now taking it to the next level for the next 10,000 years. How to change gears?
We can be Kanishta Adhikari for the next 10,000 years, but the opportunity is that we're talking about when do I go back to Godhead?
Right.
When do I get to leave this planet or my body and run with Krishna in the fields of Vrindavan? When can I do those things? What would it take for me to be me here? Do I just die chanting on my japa and boom, I'm in Krishna Loka running in the fields of Vrindavan? Or as Prabhupada gave me a rather intense tutorial on the subject, you need to become a Madhyamadikari, where Krishna is, in Bhakti Siddhanta says that the Madhyamadikari, Krishna is guiding you from within, Paramatma. Vishnu, he said.
I mean,
okay.
Bhanu
Prabhu was saying something. Bhanu Prabhu, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So what's in our hands is to chant Hare Krishna and remember Krishna 24 hours a day. And from after that point of doing it for some X number of time, later
Can't hear you.
The ball is in Krishna's court afterwards, getting to develop the Swarupa. Krishna helps you develop the Swarupa. What's in our hands is chanting Krishna's name and remembering him 24 hours.
You just kicked yourself out, Narayan Prabhu, on the audio. You just kicked yourself out on the audio, Narayan Prabhu. We cannot hear you. He's speaking, but we cannot hear him.
Yeah.
Narayan. Hello, Narayan.
Let me message him.
Can't hear anything.
Okay, let's see. Narayan. What's going on here? Let me stop his video, then maybe he might see us. Narayan Prabhu, we cannot hear you. Can you unmute yourself or whatever you did? Let's see what's going on here. Okay, let me. Narayan Prabhu, can you hear us? What happened?
Isn't it so? What's in our hands is to chant Krishna, chant the Maha Mantra and remember Krishna all the day. And developing your Sarupa, that Krishna is going to help you.
Someone left.
Amiyo Ghost left.
Oh, okay. No, Prabhu, we cannot hear you. What's going on? So, Bhanu Prabhu, you were saying that all that is in our hands is to chant Hare Krishna and follow the regular. Okay. No, Prabhu, we cannot hear you. Join the audio. No, we still cannot hear you. We cannot
I
hear
don't
you.
think he can't hear us either.
Yeah.
Something with the earphone.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me call him because
Okay.
that's the only way he'll get the message. 1 second. It might kick me out, but I'll be back.
Okay.
Come back on audio. We cannot hear you. Okay, we still cannot hear you. Okay. Narayan Prabhu, can you hear us? Hello? Narayan Prabhu? No, we cannot hear you. What's going on here? Yeah, we don't see his microphone. His microphone is disabled. What's going on here? Let me call him
Did
again.
you call him?
Yeah, I called him and he hung up. So let me call him again.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not seeing, let's see.
Did you call him?
Yeah, I called him. I told him to exit the room and come back in. I cannot see his mic. Okay, there you go. Unmute yourself. No. So what
Are we
happened?
okay now? I have no idea.
Oh, anyways. So
I
Yes.
didn't do anything. It's just some,
We can hear you now, Narayan.
oh, you poor things. So,
So Bhanu Prabhu
So-
suggested, or Bhanu's Prabhu was sharing that all that is in our control is chanting Hare Krishna and then doing that for X amount of years. And then the rest is up to Krishna. Right, Bhanu Prabhu? Is that the gist of what you said? Of becoming a Madhyama Adhikari or transcending the Kanishta Adhikari?
Yeah.
Bhanu Prabhu.
Chanting Hare Krishna on the total throughout the day, throughout the
Yes.
time we have.
24 hours a day.
That is what is in our control. And developing our Sarupa with Krishna, I mean, it's when Krishna reciprocates with you, only then can you develop a Sarupa with him. So that is,
well, are you sure that that's true? Are you sure that that's true?
I mean, to get to that point, we have to chant Hare Krishna mantra throughout the day.
You can choose or not choose to chant Hare Krishna, either Kirtan, Japa, or Shravanam, listening to Prabhupada. You can choose or not choose to take part in the Shravanam Kirtanam process, but you cannot choose to chant the Mahamantra. You choose to chant, but the Mahamantra is Krishna himself. There's no way to control Krishna. If you choose to chant, it's by the grace of Lord Chaitanya that you are able to choose to chant. He gives you the benediction. It's the benediction moon. He gives you the benediction to chant. But once you're chanting, it's Krishna, not you. The mantra is not a mechanism or a technique for becoming purified or going back to Godhead. We can say that you become purified by chanting. Why not? Because you're associating with Krishna. How can you not become purified? But I'm talking about after you've been purifying yourself in the Kanishta Adhikari platform up to a certain level. When you get to the level of Madhyama Adhikari, you consciously begin to divest yourself of being a human being in this culture, in this family, in anything like that. In other words, even a very refined and cultivated and cultured bodily conception, you're able to let it go and make space for your Swarup, which is your eternal form in relating to Krishna. So you might say, well, how do you know what your Swarup is? How do you know how to select your Swarup? You don't select it. You co-create it with Krishna. That's why the Madhyamadikari platform is so intense. You are offering, like fanning Krishna. At first, he may not like it because you're not doing it nicely. But when you beg Paramatma, how can I fan so he will like it? How can I do it? I want to know. Paramatma will give you guidance the way he will give you guidance how to find your car keys right now.
Purification has to happen before getting, before co-creating the Swarup. The purification part has to happen.
I can't hear it.
He's saying the purification process must happen before you get to that
Co-creating the Swarup with Krishna.
co-creating.
Purification process. Purification on the Kanista level is to follow the four regulative principles perfectly. That's purification on the Kanista level. Developing attachment for Krishna by hearing from the Shastras, chanting in the Kirtan, being a good pujari, falling in love with the image of the marble deity who you see as rightly as not being marble, but Krishna. That's all part of the process of purification. But the final level of purification comes when you are ready to, you want to be ready to associate with Krishna. And the question is, what will it take for Krishna to be ready to associate with you? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not based on us, and it's not based on, oh, I chanted 16 rounds and Krishna grabbed me by my neck beads and dragged me up to Krishna Loka. That's not how it works. That's more Christian.
I didn't say that way. I said chant 16 rounds and the rest of the 24 hours engage in chanting the Maha Mantra in the mind throughout the day.
I can't understand. Why I can't understand what he's saying?
Bhanu Prabhu, can you? Bhanu Prabhu said, chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds, and then throughout the day chant Hare Krishna in the mind, right, Bhanu Prabhu?
Okay.
Yeah.
And what?
And then,
why?
Yeah, Prabhu.
Why do you do that?
why do you do that? Is Narayan Prabhu asking.
When you're associating with Krishna, why do you? The whole essence.
What did he say?
He says you're associating with Krishna. That's why you do it.
Exactly. But you cannot just associate with Krishna. Krishna has to be willing for you to associate with him. Fortunately, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, you can associate with Krishna by chanting because Lord Chaitanya made it possible. That's why we owe Lord Chaitanya not just our life, Bushido, like a Japanese samurai. We don't owe Krishna our life. We owe Lord Chaitanya our life. We owe him our entire conscious existence as part and parcel of Krishna. We owe him everything. When I say everything, I mean our identification as pure spirit soul. We owe him ourselves as spirit soul.
So let me ask a question now here. Now say you have developed that stage of Madhyamadikari. Now, you're going through the ladder, going up to the Uttamadikari. Okay, so now you are practicing this, you're in Madhyamadikari, you're practicing at that level. So what do you do for the next 10,000 or 9,500 something years? Obviously, if you're, you can practice yourself, or you can help others. So,
well, it's true. But the thing is, when you get into Madhyamadikari, it's a very, very difficult path. that it's a very lonely path.
Yes.
There are only three people that you're dealing with. Yourself, primarily, Paramatma, who facilitates your forward progress by helping you understand what Krishna likes. And he knows what Krishna likes because he himself is an extension of Krishna. So it's not as though that Paramatma has to guess or look at us in a junior woodchuck guidebook or something to understand what Krishna likes. He is Krishna. So he can guide you breath by breath, gesture by gesture, thought by thought, feeling by feeling.
Okay. So next,
as
the third.
To what Krishna likes.
Right.
Then, when you are then doing things that Krishna likes, he will begin to overcome his resistance to the service that you're offering to him. When I say resistance, if it's not perfect on the spiritual Uttamadhikari platform, it doesn't please him. All that pleases him is complete and utter perfection.
So now you have said these things. It's a lonely path. So then, what's the reason to have a league, or what's the reason to have anything? If it's a lonely path.
This is two different things.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying that, you know.
Yeah, we'll get to that if you want to go from that. I'm saying, how long does it take to become a Uttama Adhikari? Well, I'm describing. You have to learn to fan, if you're fanning Krishna, you have to learn to fan Krishna until he becomes so enraptured by your fanning because of your impulse and Paramatma's guidance from within. He will guide you until Krishna becomes enamored with your fanning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Krishna.
Until Paramatma becomes enamored. By Krishna becomes enamored. Govinda becomes enamored. When he becomes enamored of your fanning, he will say to himself, I can't stand not having this jiva with me in my presence. Why is he on the other side of that dark curtain of Maya? Let that Maya curtain roll up. Let him come under Yoga Maya and let us see each other face to face. You see? That's the stage. The question for the golden age of Kali is, how long will that take? How long will it take for me to get to be a first-class Kanistha Adhikari? After that, how long will it take for me to become a Madhyama Adhikari? And after I become a Madhyama Adhikari, how long will it take before I become an Uttama Adhikari? Which is the entry requirement for going to Krishna Loka.
Right.
Like when you are in Madhyama Adhikari, you gradually begin to develop your spiritual form. If you're fanning Krishna in your mind or physically, you need a hand to hold the fan. And then you need an arm to attach to the hand. Then you need a body. Then you need a head. You need legs. And they all have to be transcendentally spiritual ones, not the ones you have as a Kanistha Adhikari. Mortal flesh and blood legs. In other words, you become a spiritual being again with a spiritual body in order to go back to Godhead. Now, this is already guaranteed. Prabhupada doesn't have to go into great detail about it for the very simple reason it doesn't matter. You're already going to go back to Godhead. If it takes you 100,000 lifetimes, so what? If it takes you 10 lifetimes, so what? You're doing something that no one else in the whole material creation can do. Only those that have been touched by Lord Chaitanya's holy name can go back to Godhead in this planet, this time at least. So what does it matter how long it takes? First of all, when you become a pure devotee and you're in Krishna Loka, everything we've experienced for 100 million lifetimes in the material world will seem like a snap of the fingers because material time has no place in the spiritual sky. That's the end of it.
So I'd like to stop here and ask for the any questions devotees have? And what we have been discussing?
But
We have to.
when we get back, let's talk about the 9,450 or
65.
whatever years.
Yeah, yes. So anything?
Bonnie probably knows.
Yes. So anyone has anything to say or clarifications? Okay. All right, now Prabhu, now let's hit up that 9,450 years league for 10K. What to do now? We're here now, developing our Kanishta, and then going to the next level, or trying to go to the next level.
So, first of all, they always say Columbus discovered America.
Right.
What they don't say about Columbus is they had a Chinese map, which he misread and went to the wrong side of South America to get to India. If he'd gone to the other side, he might or might not have gotten there. But going to the inside, he came into near Cuba or something of that sort, found a bunch of dusky Native Americans, took some of them prisoners, took them back to Spain and said, just look, Ferdinand, look at Isabella, these are Indians. And we still call them Indians. Why? Because he didn't want to be beheaded. He put a lot of money on him finding India. They wanted a spice route that wasn't controlled by the Chinese, such as it's being controlled right now. But they wanted a alternative to the spice road. And that's why they sent Columbus.
Okay.
He took a map that was already done decades before by the Chinese. And he misread it. Ferdinand Magellan went through the Straits of Magellan and his crew practically mutinied. But he had a secret weapon that they didn't know he had, a Chinese map that showed him exactly how to go through the Straits of the Magellan, because the Chinese had already done that. Going into the Southern Hemisphere without the North Star, it's more complicated. So, but getting back to the timing, how long will it take for us to become Uttama Adhikaris and therefore essentially back to Godhead, whether we go back to Godhead, leave the planet or stay here as Uttama Adhikaris engaged in pastimes with Krishna and others who are maybe Uttama Adhikaris engaged also. How many years will it take? Certainly, I think we can agree we can't do it by the end of this lifetime, or at least it would be astonishing if we could.
No, we don't rule out any possibilities.
So the League for 10,000 Years is while you're tapping your foot, becoming a higher level Kanishta Adhikari and then a Madhyama Adhikari, while you're tapping your foot and scratching your arm and pulling on your hair, why not deliver the fallen souls using the means that delivered us? The holy name of Krishna as delivered by Lord Chaitanya. That's what we can do.
Okay.
Do we have to do it? No, we don't have to do it. Should we? If we want to be successful in our own spiritual future, should we do it? Duh. Of course we should do it if we want to be successful in our own spiritual destinies.
I mean,
Right.
we should go by what
It's part of
Prabhupada
it.
said. Prabhupada said it is possible to go back to Godhead within this lifetime. So we shouldn't be rolling out that possibility.
Okay, then go ahead and do it. I'm talking about for people that are going to take some time to become Madhyama Adhikari. If you went back to Godhead in this lifetime, and I don't know this to be factual, but what do you think your rasa with Krishna would be? There's 4 basic rasas and sub-rasas there. What would your rasa with Krishna be if you went back to Godhead in this lifetime?
25% chance
Still
to
half
guess
of
it.
left. So it's
Well, everything in Krishna Loka is conscious. Is Rupa Manjari still here?
Yes, I'm still here.
I wish you were talking, not me.
You're doing
So-
a good job.
Well, I'll get to my best. But if you go back to Godhead in your present state of mind at the end of this lifetime, you would probably be in Shanta Rasa, which because you haven't developed the rasa with Krishna. So Shanta Rasa means like a grain of sand in Krishna Loka. Not a cowherd boy, not a gopi, not milk giving Mother Yasoda, but a grain of sand, or maybe a pebble. Why? Because it's passive. What we're talking about here, now I don't know, I wish I could ask Srila Prabhupada if he meant these four rasas, there's 3 stages of Kanistha, Madhyam, Uttamadhikari. Is that for people who want an active relationship with Krishna? Because the way he describes it, that's what you would end up with, was an active relationship with Krishna. Or should I go for a passive relationship with Krishna? Would I get one if I chant all my rounds and die at the end of this lifetime? Well, very possibly you would. It depends. Also, like Ajamil, he cried out Narayan at the end of his, when he was dying. The Yamadutas were coming to drag him off because he was so sinful. But he cried out Narayan, meaning his son, who he named Narayan, fortunately for him. And the Narayana Dutas came and took him to Vaikuntha, but not to Krishna Loka, to Vaikuntha planets, Vishnu.
what if we name the child Krishna and we call Krishna at the time of death?
Well, it can gamble on it. I don't know. All I know is what Prabhupada told me, and that he told me about the 3 stages, Kanistha, Madhyam, Uttamadhikari. He also said that do not accept a guru who's not an Uttamadhikari. That's clearly stated, not just by Prabhupada, but by Rupa Goswami, who's not other than Rupa Manjari, one of the closest associates of Radharani. So, if Rupa Goswami says your guru has to be an Uttamadhikari, then I would put a lot of stock in becoming one, rather than just hoping that you, who knows, you might become a grain of sand named Krishna. Everything in the spiritual world has a name. So it really is not so much the name, but it's the question of your realization. And if you die crying Krishna and you've developed your rasa with Krishna by fanning him or being Mother Yasoda and having breast milk for him or something of that sort, if you're crying out that's Krishna, then he'll come in that rasa. But if you cry out Krishna with no rasa, then maybe you'll become a small fern named Krishna. Everyone in the spiritual world has a name. Every jiva. Not necessarily the Krishna, you see. It would depend on your consciousness at the time you cried it out. If you cried out as a pure devotee, then you'd be an Uttamadhikari, and therefore you would be already in your rasa with Krishna as you leave your body. The whole idea is not to be saved by Krishna, but to serve Krishna. Manu, can you agree with that idea? Our job is to serve Krishna, here or in the spiritual sky.
Hare Krishna.
I mean, once we start having the fun of being an Uttari, and if we have that experience, that fun, then we can.
Are we? I don't
decide.
understand. Manu, that's you talking, right? I'm eager to hear what you have to say.
If we experience the fun of being an Uttamadhikari on earth itself, and there's no distinction of whether being in spiritual world or in the material world.
Exactly. We have that example. Prabhupada, Bhaktisaranta Saraswati Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakrabarti, all of them going back up to Lord Chaitanya. They are here and there. And the associates of Lord Chaitanya, like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, they were all doing sometimes double speak. When they spoke to each other in the rasa with Lord Chaitanya, they were at the same time carrying on their rasa in the spiritual sky, almost like code words. I read one thing where I think Jiva Goswami wrote something on a piece of palm leaf and put it in the rafter of the Chittai house, where they were staying, the bamboo thatched roof house. And then I think Sanatana Goswami came and read it. It had to do with their rasa in the spiritual sky with Krishna. It had nothing to do with Lord Chaitanya and the pastimes here on earth. So they were doing a double, a twofer. They were doing both. They were carrying on their eternal pastimes in the spiritual sky, while at the same time carrying on their pastimes with Lord Chaitanya here. And why not? Here, Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna. Right? Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna. Advaita is Vishnu. Gadadhar is Radharani. I mean, what is the difference between associating with Lord Chaitanya and associating with Radha and Krishna? The only difference for us is that we're luckier to be associating as we are at this time and space in history for 550 years or whatever after Lord Chaitanya's appearance. We're lucky because if we'd been born at the time of Lord Chaitanya, we could not have associated with him as closely as we're associating right now. How? What would be our qualification? Oh, we could chant, yeah. He taught everyone to chant. But could we join in his inner circle? No. But by reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, by Prabhupada's grace and the grace of Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti, whoever wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we can have that good fortune of direct association with Lord Chaitanya that we could not have if we'd been born at that time in history, 500 and something years ago. Do you get the point? This is a very powerful and magical, transformative time we're living in. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Banduji, are you there?
Yeah.
What do you think?
At least we have to perfect the stage of Kanishtadhikari and get to the stage or higher stage to.
Okay. If we had been born at the time of Lord Chaitanya, we would not even be Kanishtadhikari.
Yeah.
But because of the grace of Srila Prabhupada, who lifted up lowlifes like me, we can become Kanishtadhikari. So he gave us marching orders how to march through Kanishtadhikari, making it better and higher and greater, bigger and nicer temples, nicer deities, nicer seva, nicer kirtan, Sankirtan, chanting his Prabhupada's melodies only, and wonderful mridanga playing, wonderful kartals playing, amazing prasadam dishes, not influenced by Western mentality, not even influenced by Indian mentality, but influenced only from Krishna Loka mentality. All of that stuff can be done by the Kanista Adhikari as the Kanista Adhikari platform goes higher and higher. And you can stay Kanista Adhikari as long as you like. I mean, it's a lot of fun, very pleasurable. Just like people, Indian people come to the temple at Los Angeles every Sunday. They love coming. They bring plates of prasad. They bring a bhoga, rather, to be offered. They're having such a good time there. But that doesn't mean they're not going to go back home and sit in their Barca loungers and watch their widescreen TVs. Of course,
Even if you don't, even if you don't categorize it as Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama, it is to be understood that when you are doing devotion to Krishna, at some point you will have to develop relationship with Krishna. Until that point, and after developing relationship with Krishna, then later you become a pure devotee. So all the three stages are coming in it.
Yes, exactly. And right now you're developing a relationship with Krishna by chanting on your japa. Krishna's name is not different than Krishna. I mean, if you were to look at the holy name as it is, you see Radha, Krishna, and the 8 principal gopis are dancing on your tongue, not just Krishna. That's how powerful. Krishna is not limited to just being in Krishna Loka. He was in Vrindavan, he was in Ramachandra, he was in Navadvip, Mayapur. He's not limited. Krishna is not limited. We're limited because we're infinitesimal parts and parcels of Krishna. Even as liberated souls, we can only take some simultaneous forms, I think 3 times or something of that sort. Maybe it's 10 times, I forget, but whatever it is, it's not unlimited times. Krishna is unlimitedly in the, as Paramatma is Krishna, unlimitedly in the center of every atom, in the heart of every jiva, not just humans. What about germs? What about bugs? He's in the heart of every living creature, right?
Yes.
Jai.
Yes. So he's unlimitedly able to expand. We're not. We're imploded. He's exploded and we're imploded. Where infinitesimal means infinitely small. He is infinite, meaning infinitely huge or grand. And how many infinitesimal jivas can exist within an infinitely huge being like Krishna, all-encompassing? Well, all of us. Every single one of us jivas, whether we're currently in the body of a maggot eating dead flesh or in a body of a demigod dancing around having fun with demigoddesses, whatever we do, that's we can do, but only one at a time, or maybe 2 or 3 at a time if we become yogis. You see? So that comes with the territory. If you want to be a demigod, work at it. But frankly, on a level playing field, you and I are better off with the league for 10,000 years than becoming Indra. Because we become Indra for eons, lots of time, then we have to give up being Indra at the end of that time. Or as we chant Hare Krishna as we are now in the golden age of Kali, we and everyone we chant in the presence of is going to go back to Godhead. Does that sound like a nice thing?
Yes.
Bobby, what do you think?
Jai. Mahaprabhu.
I want your deepest insight.
So no,
You
no,
became-
we were on a specific route. I guess we somewhat have kind of diverted. We wanted to chalk out a plan to help. How are we going to help the,
how are we going to function?
Us-
What are we going to do for 9,450 years more?
Yes,
yes,
than
I have
the-
a question before that.
Well,
okay, Bhanu Prabhu has a
we
question.
had to address these other points because Bhanu says, "Who cares? I want to go back to Godhead now at the end of this lifetime in a few 60, 80 years now more. I want to go back to Godhead in 60, 80 years, not some after 9,500 years." And that is a point well worth addressing. And I think I've tried to, on different occasions, to address it from the point of view is, do we really, how much choice do we have as to how many births we're going to take before we become Uttama Adhikaris and therefore able to go back to Godhead?
Bhanu Prabhu, you want to ask a question or you want to have a discussion on that point Narnan Prabhu has made?
I didn't hear it. Can you say again, Prabhu?
Could
I was
you
busy.
repeat it?
I was busy. Someone came.
Could you,
Oh,
or
So now-
Rupa,
and Narnan Prabhu is saying, how many births will it take for you to go back to Godhead? Is it going to take 1 birth, 2 births, 3 births?
to become an Uttamadhikari.
Narnan Prabhu, add the rest.
What I know
Yeah, to
is,
become an Uttamadhikari.
I want to
Bhanu
what's in
Prabhu
my
wants to achieve.
engage 10% of my time in remembering and chanting the Maha Mantra. Only that is in my hands. So at what point I'll develop a relationship with Krishna? I don't know about all that. What's in my hands, I'm doing.
What does the Maha Mantra do? What is your relationship to the Maha Mantra when you're chanting?
I didn't get it. What is a relationship to Maha Mantra means?
Well, I mean, you're chanting the Maha Mantra. How does that, from that, are you sensing that you're entering your eternal rasa with Krishna? By chanting japa.
I hear the sound vibration, Prabhupada chanting, and I just chanted.
Yeah. Is that the same thing as understanding what your eternal rasa with Krishna is?
No, maybe.
Not really, right?
Mm.
So what will it take? What do you have to do to realize what your eternal rasa with Krishna is?
So you
How are
please
you
tell
going to do that?
us, Prabhu, how to get to the stage to develop rasa with Krishna.
How do you develop the stage of prema, or your direct, kinetic, one-on-one, reciprocal relationship with Krishna? How do you do it?
Yeah, I'm asking.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Well, you've got to become my answer doesn't satisfy anybody. You need to become a Madhyamadikari and renounce your Kanistha, glorious Kanistha, nice, plump, vegetarian, illuminated, glowing body, relationships with family and friends. Now you have to give them up physically, but you have to give them up consciously, because you can't take your family and friends with you as a group into Krishna Loka. You are going there in your rasa with Krishna. If you do that, they will also do it, but not at the same time. They'll do it when they become Uttamadhikaris, one after another. Like Bhanu, once you become an Uttama Adhikari, all your present family,
I mean, answer. Can you
members
answer the
and your past ones
how
from
to
previous
develop
lives,
their
they'll
rasa?
all go back to Godhead too, as they become conscious of their rasa with Krishna.
How to develop the rasa with Krishna? Don't talk about Kanishta and Uttama words. Just tell me how to develop rasa with Krishna or rasa with.
That's what I'm sorry to say, but that's what the Madhyamadikari does. That's all that he does. That's the only purpose for the Madhyamadikari platform. It's one-on-one.
Don't use the terms now. I mean, terms are okay. You're using the terms, but
how
do you do that? How does the Madhyamadikari develop the rasa with Krishna? How to get to the stage of Madhyamadikari who is developing his rasa with Krishna?
How? It's not difficult. It means that the same Paramatma that you more or less boss around, as we all do, boss around Paramatma in our daily life to keep body and soul together, as it were. Instead of bossing Krishna around, Krishna will be, Paramatma sees your intent is to surrender into your rasa with Krishna, but you don't know how, he will show you how, bit by bit. Paramatma will show you step by step how to surrender to Krishna. He will not do it. He will do it. And how does that work? It only works when Krishna himself, not Paramatma, but when Krishna himself is reciprocally pleased. You fan Krishna and he feels the pleasure. He extends his body to you on his side of the dark curtain of Maya, and you're on the inside of the dark curtain of Maya fanning, and you don't know, but he is experiencing increasing pleasure because you're being guided by Paramatma. Make me dance like a puppet, in other words.
So that's only when Krishna starts reciprocating with you
it has, you can't go back to Godhead until you have a reciprocal relationship with Krishna, unless you want to be a grain of sand on the ground.
So as I said, what's in our hands is to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra or engage in some kind of devotional service all the day until we get to reciprocating our Upa with Krishna.
Madhyamadikari doesn't have to limit what he does. He just limits his experience of what he's doing to pure, unalloyed service to Krishna. So, I mean, you can find a friend and shake hands in the marketplace, but in your consciousness, you're fanning Krishna, And your friend may say, wow, that was quite a handshake. But actually, you are not really shaking his hand, because shaking his hand would reduce you to the Kanishta Adhikari platform.
I mean, when you're chanting the mantra, initially you hear the sound and then you chant the Maha Mantra. Later, the pastimes are also revealed when you chant the Maha Mantra. The pastimes goes on. It's not, you don't need to physically think about the pastimes, but mentally think about the pastime. The pastimes would be eventually they would come.
When you say pastimes, what are you referring to? Krishna's eternal. Krishna stealing butter and giving it to the monkeys.
Yeah, all the pastimes. So
the
point when the pastimes are revealed, that means you are developing a relationship with Krishna. You are developing.
But that's not a personal relationship with Krishna. Personal means one-on-one. Krishna,
that is the
nobody
starting
else.
Point of when you are at least it's a point when you're beginning to develop a relationship with your rasa with Krishna, isn't it, sir?
Yeah, but when you're developing a relationship with Krishna, that's what you're doing. You're not developing a relationship with all sorts of monkeys and butter and melody soda at the same time. These things can be part of your culture, part of your mentality, part of your heartfelt love. But the real task is you and Krishna coming to terms with each other after you have been in the material world for a very long time, And after you developed a desire to restore your reciprocal relationship with Krishna, rather than living in India in a human body that somebody gave the name of Banu.
Maybe if you're chanting, you can maybe you tend to realize your pastimes with Krishna, your rasa with Krishna, and you can experience
That's a
your
step in the right
pastimes.
direction. That helps. But at the same time, how does it become a pastime with Krishna unless he is as involved as you are? If Krishna is not involved with your pastime with him, then how is it a pastime with him?
When you're chanting, our rasa with Krishna would be evoked and it would be revealed, mentally when you're chanting. That is what I'm thinking.
Is your pastime with Krishna third person or first person? Is it something that you can observe, or is it something that you must partake in?
Because since it didn't happen, I mean, how can you?
Oh, you have an eternal relationship with Krishna. But the trick is, it's not just you remembering it, it's you doing what you do in that rasa with Krishna. And Krishna, here's the tricky part. The tricky part is Krishna reciprocating. While you do something to serve Krishna or to please Krishna, Krishna, first of all, it must be pleasing to Krishna. What if you're doing something to please Krishna according to your own higher developed Kanista Adhikari mentality, and he doesn't like it? He might like it when you're making an offering on the altar to a deity, because that's formal.
No, I'm not talking about the Kanista Adhikari platform. When you are reaching the Madhyama Adhikari platform, and when at that point, when you have reached the Madhyama Adhikari platform, and at that point when you're chanting, then the Swarupa would be revealed as the pastime between you and Krishna while you're chanting. So the same thing, the chanting.
When you say revealed, what do you mean by revealed? That you can observe it?
You would be experiencing the Swarupa mentally.
Why just mentally?
Whatever words, I'm not getting the words. Only the words I'm getting.
Spiritually. As the jiva, you would be experiencing the pastime. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In other words, all this whole conversation is just to get us to square one in the League for 10,000 Years goal. But now we're here, and it's a good place to be. Can you get into a relationship with Krishna without Krishna reciprocating? That's my question about it.
No, it's not possible.
It's not possible?
Yeah.
Exactly. Relationship means it would be like sitting on the bus or the train or something, and you see a girl and you like the girl, and you look at the girl and says, "Oh, I'm so attracted to that girl. I think she likes me." She's just reading her book. She's not even paying attention to you. If the girl begins to look at you, and you look at the girl, and you develop a conversation, a relationship, your eyes are dashing back and forth, then there's a question that there's a relationship. That would be rasa. All the rasa is a relationship. It doesn't mean anything else. Rasa with Krishna means your interaction with Krishna. Rasa means relishable. Well, and why not? Why wouldn't your relationship with Krishna be relishable? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see.
But at what point does Krishna start reciprocating, developing a relationship with us?
The minute that he likes what you're doing, and not likes in terms of reading from a book. Oh, he's following the instructions in the book, so I like it. That's what happens in the Kanista stage. You do stuff by the book, and Krishna is pleased, just like the Prabhupada said when a student is a baby, like young child, doesn't know how to write ABC. So Prabhupada says the teacher has the person writing teacher has to child making like circles and squiggles on the page just to get the child used to making what you call it what's going on? Just so the child can get used to holding the pencil and making a mark on the page without going all over the page, that the child is staying on the lines driven on this paper and draws little circles or shapes in between the lines. So that's the beginning that we have in the Kanista Adhikari stage at the upper range of Kanista Adhikari. When you come to the Madhyam page platform, the Madhyam platform begins when Krishna reciprocates to you. What people always think of, well, Krishna's God, so he's in charge. I'm not God, so I'm not in charge. But in devotional service, the jiva is the one that's in charge. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes.
The jiva. Go ahead. Was that Rupa saying?
I said yes.
Yes. Can you elaborate?
I think you're doing a good job of that.
Well, they're doing almost as good a job. But anyhow,
Well,
do you think that's...
I feel like we keep getting sidetracked on your talking about this subject when we just want a practical agenda to follow that is...
Well, this is the thing. That exactly, you're totally correct. You're going by what we started out to talk about, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the practical.
Yeah, but how can we do that if we don't develop a sense, an emotional, psychological timeline for becoming an Uttama Adhikari? If I can do it in 10 minutes, then what do I'm talking about saving a bunch of jerks all over the world for when I can go back to Godhead and let the jerks stay here and suffer? What do I care? You know, I can take that point of view. But
in other words, for you, the agenda is becoming all of us Uttama Adhikaris. That's what you're saying.
well, this is tying into previous conversations. But let me try to then put it in a nutshell if possible. The reason we're talking about Uttama Adhikari, because we're trying to say how many years, minutes, years, hours, births, lifetimes will it take to become an Uttama Adhikari, starting where we are right now. And it occurred to me in the earlier part of our conversations that as followers of Lord Chaitanya, just a few hundred years since he was here, that we have a span of time for us to take birth after birth here until we become Uttamadhikaris and qualified to go back to Godhead. If we have a span of time to spend here, then the big question is, how much of a span? In other words, how many births will it take for me to become an Uttamadhikari? 2 births,
I guess
10 births, 20 births, 100 births? Well,
I guess
if
it's
it takes 100 births, then we've used up the rest of the golden age of Kali.
I guess it depends on the material form that we come back into.
Well, the good part is that if you're in the league for 10,000 years and you're taking it very seriously, every time you take another birth, it'll be a higher birth, a better birth.
Understood.
You go out, and I'm sure where you are, it's everywhere. So Mahaprabhu, Prabhu, when you see dog walkers walking their dogs everywhere, all over the city, no matter where you live, right? They're out there walking their dogs in the morning, then at noon and afternoon as well. The question is, what is the next birth for the dog walker?
There's no going backwards.
Oh yeah, they're most likely going to become dogs. In fact, people that have dogs are beginning to say they're closer emotionally to their dogs than they are to their children. Now that's pretty much a guarantee that they're going to take birth as a dog. And you know what? If you told one, sometimes I say that to them, oh, do you know, you're a dog walker, and I think out of appreciation, the dog's having more fun than you are, and you're picking up the dog's poop, the dog's not picking up your poop. What about if the next lifetime you become the dog and the dog becomes the dog walker and is picking up your poop?
That could happen.
It's going to happen. Whatever you're attached to, that's where you go.
Mm.
Like when you're driving a car, that's true, isn't it? You get behind the wheel and you say, where am I going? So you look down the road. I'm going down the road.
How do we detach?
If you're Tiger Woods, you might not be looking down the road and end up rolled over in the ditch.
Mm. It's all about serving the jiva then.
Yeah, the secret is do human things, but human things means don't imitate animals. Don't do what they do. Do what the higher saintly humans do, and you will take a better birth. As you take birth, you'll take a birth as a devotee in your next lifetime. You'll be encouraged from birth to chant Hare Krishna. You will be, all of these things will be going on, not new experience like for me and most other people, but it'll be I've been there, done that. Let's keep going, Let's keep going in this human birth. This is chanting Hare Krishna. So how long will it take to become an Uttamadhikari? It depends how long it will take to get through the entire process of Kanistha. That could take a number of births. How many? I don't know. But supposing it took 10 births, 10 births would be, what? 10 births. How many years would that be?
1,000.
That much? If it was 100, if 10 births had 100 years per birth, 1,000, but at least 500 if you live to only be 50, right?
Right.
So 500 years is half of what we have, more than half of what we have in front of us. Supposing it took 20 births to become an Uttamadhikari. Supposing it took 15 births to become an Uttamadhikari. Well, that could take 7,000 years. And then after you become an Uttamadhikari, might you feel so joyful at having become one that you're willing to stay here and teach everybody, including the insects, to chant Hare Krishna. Not insects won't chant, they'll hear. But same deal, if they hear it, they become chanting in their next lifetime. So that's what that's what Rupa Manjari Prabhu, that's what we're moving towards here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. Do you like the idea of Mahaprabhu?
I love the idea.
Yeah. Loving the idea is a natural response. And that raises the question which I wanted to raise tonight. Let's not speak from what we've read in. Is Shreya here tonight? I don't sense she's here.
Haven't seen her.
Nope. No.
No, Shreya. That's too bad. I wanted Rupa and Shreya to make friends.
Busy with her family, probably.
Yeah, well, Shreya's incredible. And so is Rupa Manjari. So the two of them, two incredible women talking to each other, will drive us into respectful silence while we chew on our fingers, watching them enlighten us.
Hardy, hardy.
Or something like that.
Hardy, hardy.
Exactly. So now, Rupa Manjari, does that sort of straighten out where we're headed, supposedly headed in this conversation tonight?
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah, we couldn't go further because we have to settle the question of how do you become an Uttamadhikari. I was hoping that Ramachandra Prabhu would answer that question in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay, sorry, I apologize. 4 minutes. Didn't mean to insult you.
Probably 4 million lifetimes.
How many lifetimes it would take to become an
4
Uttamadhikari?
billion.
Cannot answer how to become an Uttamadhikari.
Just think of how many germs have become enlightened. I mean, you say 400 lifetimes. They've probably taken 20 or 30 lifetimes since we began the conversation. And each one of those is going to go back to Godhead eventually. Right?
With no recollection of our previous lives.
Right. We don't. We can, but we don't necessarily usually have recollections. Some people do have recollections. There's lots of examples, not devotees, but children that say, "Oh, that house, I used to live there," you know. And people, "Oh no, you've never seen that house before." "Oh yes, I used to live there." And then he starts getting into it. They begins to remember who his brothers and sisters were, what their names were. They go to the house, they find out, oh yeah, he's telling the truth. He's remembering what happened in another life, and that he may have died as a child or something, but he remembers everything that happened before he died. It's rare, but it's not impossible. And in another sense, it's universal, because we all act as though we had our previous lives, and we did. Everyone who acts is acting out this lifetime, but even more so previous lifetimes. Whatever happens to us, we're acting out. Previous doesn't mean just one or two. How about 1,000? One of the curious things about previous lives is when they affect us, when the previous life affects us, it may be one that we had 50 lifetimes ago affecting us now and hasn't affected us in between. Prabhupada was explaining, I think it was Prabhupada, one of the acharyas was explaining how that works, that it pops up. And so what the answer is Banu's answer: chant the Maha Mantra, chant japa, chant the kirtan, chant Hare Krishna mantra, and it will minimize the effect of even previous lives on you in this lifetime also. What to speak of the ones that are things you can remember you did and groan and blush when you think about it in this lifetime. Does it make sense? It's not just purifying this one lifetime, it's purifying all of them.
Jai.
That's why in the sacrifice, abhitrava, abhavitra, bhavitrava. Whether you're purified or unpurified, the fire sacrifice will burn up the karma. So now, Rupa Majori, do you want to take it further? Or where are we? Hello?
Well, okay, so it sounds like your focus is each of us developing ourselves as devotees. That's the first step. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
But also, tonight's agenda started out to be, and you can't control how it ends up, of course, as you can notice yourself, but it started out to be, instead of talking about how many butters monkeys stole and gave to other monkeys or whatever, or Krishna stole and gave to monkeys, instead of thinking about all those pastimes, we can do that. They're relishable. Why not think about them? They're Krishna's pastimes. But we should then focus on our philosophical insights and say, okay, where do we go from here? How do we make this happen? What's the practical path forward?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, one practical path is World Sankirtan. It doesn't have to be hundreds of times, although it could be. It could be 10 times would be enough to change the history of the world. 5 times, 3 times, change the history of the world, because people hearing the holy names chanted reciprocally by 100,000 people taking turns leading the kirtan, that transformational. You don't need a guru, you don't need a leader. You are the leader. You chant Hare Krishna. You lead the kirtan. And otherwise, and 100,000 people will respond.
And where do we get those 100,000 people?
Oh, it's like, remember, I've told you, I've said a million times, how did I get 50,000 people at Rath Yatra in 1970? 40,000.
By telling them that they would come over the radio.
Yeah, I said, the radio guy, disc jockey, the crazy howling wolf guy would be howling in between records, and he'd put on a record, then he'd howl, doing this every night for years. I mean, that's quite a burden. So we came in there just like, this was 1970, early-ish, 6 years after Prabhupada started the movement. And we came in there in dhotis, kurtas, shaved head, tilak, bead bags, and shrieking and screaming. There's going to be 50,000 people marching 7 miles to the sea. There'll be flowers and garlands and bells ringing and elephants. I don't know if he said elephants. And there'll be a feast for everybody, 12-course feast for everyone at the ocean after going to Golden Gate Park to the sea. And we were just ranting. There'll be 50, we said 50,000, there'll be 50,000 people. And the Jitsaki, that was while the record's playing, we're shrieking and screaming. Then the record comes to an end, so we've become quiet because we don't want to be shrieking and screaming while he's doing his shrieking and screaming. And instead of shrieking and screaming, he said, would you mind saying that over to the microphone to the people out there? And my brother and I looked at each other and scratched our heads, looked at our watches, looked at the wall and said, okay, let's do it. So we went there and said, there'll be 50,000 people marching to the sea. That's what we screamed to, God only knows, 40, 50,000 people out there in the audience. So, Rupa Manjari, why did 40,000 people show up?
Because they came to see 50,000 people.
Yeah. They But how many people decided to come? How many people decided to come to make that 40, 50,000 people? How many people decided to come?
50,000.
That's what it turned out. But 50,000 people didn't sit in a gigantic room somewhere and say, let's all go, right? How many people decided to go?
50,000.
Oh,
Probably more than that.
more than that. They decided. Some did, some didn't. They brought their wives. They didn't, they brought kids. They didn't bring kids. No, do you know what the answer is? And this is the existential reality of it and the power of it. Only one person decided to go. And 50,000 individuals each decided to go to see if there were going to be 40, 50,000 people at the festival. You get the point.
Yeah.
So when 40,000 individuals individually said, I don't know about anybody else, I'm going to go and see if there really is going to be that many people. So when 40,000 people decided to go to see if there's going to be that many people, there were that many people because 40,000 individual people chose to go to see. So that's how you do it. You don't get 40,000 or 100,000 people to go into an auditorium. You get one person to go, multiplied by 100,000. One. Each individual, each jiva is then motivated. I'm going to go. And they said, well, hey, wife, are you going to take me with you? Okay, you can come too. That's two. You know what I mean? But it's not 100,000. One person cannot produce 100,000, no matter how much they scream into the microphone at the rock station. All we could do was get one person to decide to come and say it with such intensity that that one person became 50,000 individuals chose to come. So only one person came times 50,000. Rupa, does that make sense at all?
Yes.
It happened then.
The physics, how it works,
Pretty heavy.
the math. So that's what we can do. Nowadays it would be child's play to get 100,000 people into an auditorium, as long as it's not raining. Even if it is raining. It was raining in 1970, and they marched 7 miles to the sea. Not pouring rain, but drizzling rain. So and they didn't stop. They didn't go home. They just kept on marching because once they made that commitment, they were not going to be, since one person decided to go and one person saw 40, 50,000 people there, one person was not going to leave taking 40 or 50,000 people with them. That's what lemmings do also. One lemming gets the idea to jump off a cliff and all the other ones say, I'm not going to be left behind.
I mean, is there an audience video these days?
Hey, Badu, do you like that example?
Yeah, it happened then.
So we need to get 50,000. We need to get 100,000 people into the auditorium to chant Prabhupada's melodies, Prabhupada's Mridanga beat. That's the Mridanga, and then kartals. Opening the heart, the bands, the steel bands on the heart of each individual. You get that? All the Mridanga players on amplifier, individually amplified and with headphones on so they can all hear each other out in the midst of those crowd of people, not on a stage acting like Rolling Stones, but no, out in the audience, and they're all playing in harmony, coming through diversified high-tech speakers all around the auditorium, and they're chanting. Individuals have microphones, 50 microphones handed out one by one to people of the 100,000, so you get people chanting from all over that auditorium, not just in the front or back, but all around throughout. You don't think you could get people to come a second time? you know, or a third or fourth or a 10th time. And interestingly, once you get 100,000 people to go there, starting at say 4 in the evening or 5 in the evening, and they chant and chant and chant, how are you going to get them to stop? Part of the mood of that room will be, I'm not leaving until I have left the kirtan. And how long would it take for 100,000 people to take turns leading the kirtan? Probably a week. You see what I mean? So it's quite possible that if you have a kirtan like that, not only they would come, but they wouldn't leave. They'd stay for a week. So you have to have tons of latrines outside, trucks with prasadam that people can buy, or maybe some prasadam which is given away, kitri or something of that sort with puris. And trucks loaded with japa beads, trucks loaded with little altars you can snap together, and trucks loaded with Prabhupada's unchanged books. And why not? And what would cause them to leave? If they can eat, go to the bathroom, who needs to sleep? And if they want to sleep, they can sleep. They can just go somewhere, crawl into a truck and sleep. But other people will come in. So, I mean, there'll always be 100,000. And do that 10 times around the world, this Krishna consciousness movement will become a maniac movement. People will dive on it. Why? Because it's the real McCoy, the real thing that Prabhupada taught, Sankirtan. Okay, then what do? They said, now we've chanted, we've taken prasadam, we've bought a bunch of books. Now what do we do for a living? Go back to being an office worker or an IT guy? No. Dharma Dharma. We divide into 4 varnas: Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The majority, of course, is always at the bottom of the stack, Shudras, because that's the way it is with human society. More people are Shudras than Brahmins. Brahmins, you have just a few. Then Kshatriya is enough to guard the periphery of your property. You get 10,000 acres, get 2,000 people living on it. You get some desi cows from India, and instead of cow protection, the cows would be protecting us. In Shastra, you have 7 mothers. One of them is a cow. So do you protect your mother? Well, if you have to, if your mother needs protecting, of course you protect your mother. But more, the mother protects the baby. And we'd all be the babies of these cows. She produced the milk, and we take the milk to the temple. The Brahmins will make it into kitri, into curd, into sweet sandesh, into gulab, and then we grow. The oxen will drag the plow. And, you know, I said, the prophet Isaiah said, as a prophecy, the lion will lie down with the lamb. No, let's see. They beat their swords into plowshares, meaning for digging with a plow, and their spears into pruning hooks, so that you can prune the tree with a spear. Instead of killing people, you use it for plucking the branches from the tree. The lion will lie down with the lamb, meaning the lion will not eat the lamb, nor will they practice war anymore. So that is the prediction of our Lord Chaitanya's movement by the prophet Isaiah, who lived thousands of years ago.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. So that's what we are looking at. So we do that. Look at the internet, television. We can appear on television, but on the evening when we have that Sankirtan, you can imagine the number of helicopters live streaming. Even Google would not block us, I don't think. Not Google, but I mean Twitter would not block us. We get live streaming kirtan all over the world.
So maybe we should. Maybe
No?
we should arrange this.
Who's saying this?
Rupa.
Well,
For Manjari. Hare Krishna.
do you like that idea? That
Let's arrange it.
transforms the nature of the disaster. We're right now heading into a disastrous times, and we have time to solve the problem. You know, one thing I've noticed, because I've been looking at news and I've seen these Mexican 10-year-old kids and families coming streaming through the border because they want to destroy the country. I mean, they don't, the government does. And do you want the single distinguishing feature there is for those of people that are streaming through the border for shelter in the United States?
What?
Cell phones. These people out of Mexico, all these countries that have no money, they're starving to death. They're coming here walking 2,000 miles on foot when they're 5 years old, and they all have cell phones.
Oh, wow.
So can you imagine what that would do to World Sankirtan if everybody in the kirtan started streaming from their phone to all of their friends that they have on their base, their database, their friend list, not friend list, but friend list. Can you imagine what it would be like? Suddenly there would be chanting in every town and village without us even knowing they were chanting.
Yeah.
Instantly, cyber chanting.
I mean, if you'd like to compare, not many people
Yeah.
come to the temple for Nagar Sankirtan in the morning.
Because already the cell phone, you know.
How could we expect people to come in the thousands, hundred thousands, chanting the holy name in the stadium?
Yeah, so and the thing is,
That
it's
too,
incremental.
normal people.
By the time 100,000 people have chanted for 3, 4, 5 days, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds or even millions of people will be hearing that same chanting all over the world. Some guy that doesn't even have electricity in his house, but has a little generator to charge his cell phone, is out in the rice paddy speaking in Chinese with his friend in Hong Kong, who is speaking with his friend in India. And here comes the kirtan from that 100,000 people. And this guy's way up in the mountains on a rice paddy on the side of a mountain in China. Not Hong Kong, I mean, really inside of China. I mean, how can you stop that?
I'm asking, how can you start that?
Well, they could turn off all the cell phones, but I don't know if that would go down well. But the point is, we can do it. And so this cow protection is not really, it's called Daiva Varnashram. Varna means Varnas. First Varna, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And it's shaped like a pyramid. The pyramid means the majority of people in any society, including the one we're in here in America, are Shudras, working class. And then the capitalist pigs, as they were, become the mercantile men, but instead of raising crops, they are gambling with money on the stock market. And then the Kshatriyas protect them to keep the poor people from killing them and taking what they have. This is in this country. And then the Brahmins are busy making it sound like it's the best way of life on the planet Earth. The intellectuals in the colleges, they're trying to make it sound like it's the best thing. Well, we need to transform it around until the best thing is people chanting Hare Krishna. And the best thing is people taking Krishna prasadam. And the best thing is being protected by cows who are allowed to live into their old age and die natural deaths, at which time people can take their skins, their bones, or horns and utilize them in practical ways. For shoes, for straps to put on the bulls to pull the plow and stuff like that. The dead animal can be used. It's just you don't have to kill the animal, it'll die anyhow. It's like supposing, to kill cows after 2 years. You say, well, wait a minute. What if you killed child with the equivalent years of 15 years. Why? Why not let him live to be old?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the idea. So does that sound okay?
Yes.
So now we're talking about 10,000 years of golden age of Kali. Varna, the world Sankirtan must be there. It'll quickly give us our workforce. What do we do with our workforce? We divide up the land into 10,000, 20,000 acre, 50,000 acre acreages. What will we use for money? We won't use money. We will simply milk cows, cultivate grains, make milk, bring it, and cheese and whatnot in the village, and bring it up to the Brahmins. They will cook everything. You don't have to cook at home. I mean, 2,000 people are easy to feed. In Puri in India, they can feed 50,000 without any advance warning. So you come there 4 or 5 times a day and eat your full content. And then you go back and do your work. The Shudra is also initiated devotee, becomes disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Also, they're all equal spiritually. This is not a caste system in the way the British made it to be, and which came down from the ancient Veda Varna system. No, this is good system that everyone is equally devotee, but people have unequal jobs, meaning they work according. So what is the way Prabhupada called it spiritual communism? And what is communism principle based on? Don't think about Russia. They never
From each according to his ability, to each according to his need.
Wow. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
That is something. Can you imagine even pockets of human society? Suppose you get one community of 10,000 acres, then you get another one near it, another one near it, another one near it, till you have a lot. You don't have one big government. You don't need it. Each one can run his own thing. And everybody. So you need it. If you have a lot of kids, you get a bigger house. Do you own the house? No. Oh, you're a slave. You're a serf. You have to pay rent. No. The house is owned by the deity, by Krishna. You can stay in it as long as you need it. If you raise 10 kids and they grow up, well, they'll probably take over your house. But the thing is that you don't have to be a landowner. You don't have to have a Beverly Hills house and then you keep a fence around it, not around the United States southern border, but around your house, definitely a fence, particularly if there's no fence on the southern border. So no, you don't have to do that. You live peacefully, eat as much as you like, get married. Cloth is made by the mercantile men, not mercantile men, the farmers farm the wheat. They also farm the cotton and the silk, and they make the Shudras weave the cloth, take it up to the temple. The Brahmins will distribute it to whoever needs it, not based upon class, but based upon need. And everyone's need is the same. When I was living in Calcutta, I noticed that there were so many homeless people, meaning they didn't have houses, on the sidewalks, but the sidewalks there were like 50 feet wide, not like our sidewalks here, maybe 30 feet wide, or at least more than 20 feet wide. They were so wide that if people were lying down on the sidewalk in a row for an entire block, which is how they did, you'd still have more than enough room for 6 people walking back and forth on the sidewalk right there. And above that would be right next to the wall of an extremely wealthy man's house. So I used to ask the question to people, in Calcutta, what's the difference? And oh yeah, they would be cooking with stoves, with cow dung in the stove and wood, a bucket stove with clay inside. They'd be making all sorts of stuff. It'd drive you crazy how delicious it smelled. Not meat, it was all pretty much vegetarian, kitchery, stuff like that. And I would like to, I say, I'd like to ask, people ask, what's the difference between the rich and the poor in Calcutta? I'd say about 25, 30 feet. What do you mean by that? Well, the poor people are on the sidewalk, cooking, sleeping, wrapped up in blankets, comfortable. Then they go and work during the day, and then they come back to their little homeless place. They didn't even have tents. They didn't need them. It was a nice climate. It said, and the Ganges water was pumped up through the streets, brown, the Ganges water from the Hooghly River. And people would bathe and wash right there on the street corner. You know, they don't take their clothes off. They wear, you know, towel, a thin cloth towel, and they cook it, and they bathe like that. So it was just amazing. They have to bathe in Ganges water. Everybody else had to bathe in tap water. I said, the difference is 25 feet. He said, what do you mean? I said, the rich man, he has a balcony going out over the sidewalk. It's too hot to sleep indoors, so he sleeps on a coconut rope bed on the balcony. And so he's 25 feet higher. When he sleeps, the man on the streets may eat 4 or 5 chapatis. The man upstairs, when he eats 4 or 5 chapatis. The man below eats kitchery. The man above eats kitchery. So he's very rich, and he owns a whole building. The man's poor and owns nothing. But the only difference between their lifestyle is 25 feet. Anyway, talked a lot.
Oh,
but
I think I'm gonna go to bed now.
okay,
Narn.
why not? Then before you go to bed, could you kindly give us some wisdom before you go to bed? Say something that everyone, that the world needs to hear, because we're the biggest part of the world you've got right
Well,
now.
I think we need to be working together to get more numbers. We need to get more people on the Zoom call for one, and start generating ideas for, like you were talking about, Narnarayan doing World Sankirtan. Like that would be a totally cool event to do. You know, to like create, like maybe in some football stadium, a you know, Hare Krishna mantra explosion, and then from that, I think lots of other amazing things would happen.
Including Varnashram being protected by cow program.
Yes. Which hopefully I'll be able to do. You know, I'm trying myself to work on that as well.
Well, you're famous for it, but yes, good.
Thank
Chidananda would love to meet you.
Well, maybe we'll be on the next time at the same time.
Hopefully. We'll see.
All right. Well, anyway, good night. Thank you for
Good
inviting
night.
me.
Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bugs bite.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Good night.
I think we should end it here and we'll continue tomorrow, Prabhus.
Okay. Does anyone
Okay.
else have any? Did anyone come on that didn't say anything? Or did everyone speak?
We have Ramasubramanya Prabhu joining us in 20 minutes. Ramasubramanya Prabhu.
Uh-huh. Well, we're just about to zoom off into the distance.
Are you there, Prabhu?
He's calling from India?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's getting late. Well, it's not that late. Maybe we could give him 5 minutes to say something or ask a question. Not of me, of you. You're supposed to answer the questions, not me, Prabhu. Ramachandra Prabhu, you're the question answerer.
If there's no questions, we can certainly end it for
Let me
tonight.
remember our topic for discussion tonight was what are the practical things we can do from our realization rather than just thinking of ourselves as belonging to a group of devotees.
Yes.
I mean,
Ramasubramanya Prabhu said he has no questions.
Okay, let him ask you.
He has no questions, he said.
Okay, what's the question?
I mean, people listen to Bollywood songs and all kinds of songs, how would they be attracted to singing the Mahamantra? How would they gather in such large numbers to sing the Mahamantra in the stadium? And that too, Prabhupada.
Ramachandra, can you reiterate the question? Something about Bollywood and something
People
about
are so much interested in Bollywood music. What would make them come join the chanting, Prabhupada's chanting in a stadium?
Oh, that's very easy. Getting to lead the kirtan will do it. You know, in that stadium, it's not a bunch of people standing on the stage like a rock concert, or a bunch of superstars, a bunch of big fat gurus on the stage. No, it would be, the microphone would be handed around. You have a sound booth and sound control room, and the guy in the sound control room would be linked up with like 50 people who have microphones out in the amongst the 100,000, and they would say something like, "Number 43, do you have someone who can lead?" "Yes." "Okay, you're next." Or "Number 22, do you have somebody?" "No." "Okay, no." "Number 33, do you have somebody?" "Okay, you're after number 43." You know, and that they leading the kirtan will create that power. And the Prabhupada's melody gives you the force. Kartals clear the heart from the steel bands if they're played properly. If they're played the way they do in most temples, all it does is give you a nervous breakdown and the need for hearing aids. And the mridanga beat should be played in such a way as to make the heart swell with ecstasy and pride. As far as Bollywood is concerned, they may like or not like Bollywood. That's not the point. But when they come there and chant, they will get carried away, and they start trying to chant a Bollywood melody. We just cut off their sound and switch to a different singer. There's 100,000 to choose from. Does that make any sense?
So we should, firstly, they should know the Hare Krishna mantra, and then they should be knowing the Prabhupada tune of it.
Well, they come in. The Maha Mantra is not difficult. And if we have a soccer, when I say football, I'm not saying American football. I'm talking about real football, soccer football. So when you come into a stadium, there's usually a big electronic sign thing in the front. Put the Maha Mantra up there, and they can chant it from that, with pictures of Prabhupada dancing in ecstasy with devotees on film.
Right then. Yeah, cool.
But the secret of the Maha Mantra with Prabhupada melody and style of dancing, dancing back and forth, centers the heart in the kirtan. The kartals open the heart, dancing back and forth, leg over leg, if you've seen it, opens the heart. It's the only reason people have gotten away from that is they don't chant in the streets anymore very much. Or if they do it in a weird way. But when they are chanting and bringing new people in at all times, there's no reason to sing Bollywood melodies. There's no reason to do anything like that. We're here to please Krishna, not to please Bollywood. I'm sure the Bollywood actors would be very pleased to hear people singing their songs for them, but not necessary.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Will any day, Prabhu?
Any follow-up question, or we cross the note? Amir Ghosh didn't show up tonight, huh?
He came in and then he went out.
Oh, really? Why didn't he stay on there? He was communicating a lot on the our site, the League for 10,000 K.
Mm.
But I wanted to address particularly Vashish, who has great anecdotal things to say, but anecdotes are not going to change the history of the world. They may change the history of my heart, hearing Krishna's pastimes or pastimes between Prabhupada and people or great sages between each other. That can change my heart. But once my heart is affected, even if it's not completely changed, it is speaking from the heart. This is what we need to do for the next 10,000 years to make this movement universally successful and deliver all the living beings, including the animals, the bugs, the insects, the birds, trees, plants, grains of wheat, everything, 10,000 years, all, let them all go back to God. The chanting begins the process. Is Banu still here?
Yeah.
Hi, Banu. Did we make some progress on that question of the Kanista Madhya Madhikari?
Yeah, I'm the one who's speaking all the way.
Huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, I hope so. It's a process. What people think is, I'm here, God's there, I'm unfortunate, God's more fortunate than he even deserves to be. So why doesn't he just reach down and pick me up and take me to his place? Why do I have to go through all this struggle first? Well, that's not the way it is. He wants to be, everyone in Krishna Lokas in a reciprocal relationship with him. Right? So to reciprocate, first you have to do something. Krishna is not going to reciprocate with you until you do something towards him. And if he's pleased, he will reciprocate. Why not? Wouldn't anyone? If you see a nice person and you say something nice to them, they'll say thank you. Thanks for asking, or something like that. So that's reciprocation. So why would Krishna not reciprocate when any ordinary person that you meet on the sidewalk or on the train or in a room, you say, hi, you look pretty good today. I like your hat, the way it looks. That's where'd you get it? You know, oh, thank you for asking. You know, that's reciprocation.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to start the ball rolling. The real trick is we keep thinking God is our servant or even our slave. And we get that idea from Paramatma because we make Paramatma do things for us birth after birth. But if we can let go of that mentality of making Paramatma do things for us, and instead do things, ask Paramatma, how can I please Krishna? That's where the Madhya Madhikari platform begins. When I ask Paramatma, I want to please Krishna, but what if I don't please him? You know what he likes. Can you guide me to do what he likes? And he will. Just as much as he'll let you have a beer or a hamburger or a hot dog, if you eat those things, you know, many people that do are being guided by Paramatma where to get them. So if you ask Paramatma, how can I please Krishna? He'll like that question a heck of a lot better than where can I get a hot dog? I'll tell you that for sure. Why wouldn't he? Ah, you're back. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. You caught us just as we're going out the door. I was telling everyone you were posting these nice things on the League for 10,000 Year site. So is there something that you wanted to say or ask, Amir Ghosh Prabhu? Oh, you were here all the time?
No, he just joined.
But he's muted.
No.
Ramachandra, can you unmute him or it's not possible?
He's listening. He's listening. So
Oh, okay. Sorry, did you like what was said? If you did, you can wave or something. Because I think that's a photograph in the house. I'm offering my respects to a photograph, which is nice because it's a photograph of Mia Ghosh. Anyhow, I'm afraid we've come to the end, or not afraid, but we have come to the end. If there's nothing to stop us at this point with a wonderful comment, wonderful. Is that your child, Ramachandra?
Yeah.
Oh, offer her my blessings. Offer your daughter, Vrinda, my blessings.
Yes, certainly.
I didn't hear you doing it, but that's okay, I guess.
Anyone have
Okay.
any questions they can ask if they, I mean, we still have what, 10 o'clock? What, we have about 6 minutes, 4 minutes?
3.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Okay. So I think we've accomplished a lot. It wasn't what I wanted to accomplish was how to transfer ourselves from horizontal kata talkers to decisive spirit souls announcing what we consider to be the solution for the next 1,000 years, and that is the nature and the spirit of Istagosti. But we can do that tomorrow. How does that sound?
Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Off we go. Jai Haribol.